Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and it feels like deja vu all over again. Not even 24 hours ago, I recorded a video talking about WWE releases. Since that time, there have been 4 more releases, and I'm also going to talk about the one that I missed yesterday, or at least yesterday at the time of the recording. So much like the first video, we're going to try and see where I think these wrestlers can end up, what I think is next for them in their career. With that being said, let's jump right into it. We're going to start with the one I missed. And it wasn't somebody that was actually released yesterday, but they were released earlier in the week. So I figured it's only right to cover him as well. We're talking about Duke Hudson. And this one, much like most of these, I don't want this to sound like it's mean, but I understand where they're coming from releasing these people. But also, I think there was a time where something could have been done. Duke Hudson, as part of Chase University, was a really interesting part of the team. And it just kind of felt like once Chase U ended, they didn't really have anything for him. I would honestly kept him and Andre Chase together as a team. They don't have to be Chase University. It could just be a solid tag team that's very interesting. For me, I feel like he was given roles that weren't great, whether that be his initial role where I guess he was a gambler or being the Chase University student, and I think he did it to the best of his ability. I think there's a ton of upside with him. I don't know how old of a gentleman he is, but I say upside because we never really seen him get to his full potential. What I do think might be the best fit for him and where I'd like to see him go would be a run in TNA. I think TNA, he could continue to have that entertaining side that he already has pretty well, while also growing a more serious depth to his character, given more time to basically explore what Duke Hudson is more than just a silly gimmick. So I think he'd be a perfect fit in TNA. He's the kind of guy, if I was making a roster, he may not be my first round draft pick, but he would be a guy I would want on my roster because he's a utility type player. Now going to our next person, Giovanni Vinci, aka Fabian Eichner. And I feel like he's one of those people that it feels like he had a start, stop. We don't know what we want to do with him. The quasi-model thing. Is he in Imperium? Is he out of Imperium? We're going to let him out of Imperium again and then not really have anything to do for him. I think he is a very talented wrestler. And again, much like I said with Duke Hudson, I don't think he was ever given that real opportunity to be something on his own. What I could easily see for him, and I'm going to say one company because I'm not familiar with all of the companies over there. Right now, there was a big shakeup after NXT UK, so some of the companies that used to be there are no longer there. Some of them are. You get what I'm saying. I think a great fit for him would be to go somewhere like Rev Pro and have that, because Rev Pro has working relationships with New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've seen them have kind of a feeder a little bit to AEW, which is where I think eventually would be a good idea for him to go. But for now, I'd like to see him go to somewhere like Rev Pro, maybe a Defy, and wrestle for Defy as well, and kind of build that bridge where he puts himself all over the world, has some time with New Japan talents, some of the best European talents there is out there right now, which since WWE NXT UK has gone away, the British wrestling scene is coming back, and it's coming back with some really great talent out there. And that's where I'd like to see him mix it up. Mix it up with those guys, get in there with New Japan guys, get in there and Defy, which always has great shows, maybe even some Game Changer wrestling stuff. But I'd love to see him make Rev Pro his home base for a little while, just to put his name back out there on the map. I'd like to see him and Michael Oku have some bangers, as our friend Sheamus would say. I think he's that kind of wrestler where we need to be reminded again just how good he actually is, aside from being part of Imperium. Which, the other 2 guys are amazing there. He was great as well. People seem to forget that. But anyway, I'd like to see him get that name, get that buzz back, and I think Rev Pro is the place to do it. Next up, Isla Dawn. This is another one. I said this yesterday when I was talking on my other video. Some of these I don't get because they were being used recently. She's a recent woman tag team champion, and I do think her team with Alba Fire, the Unholy Union, was a good tag team. If there is some negative things to say about WWE right now, which is pretty much firing at a pretty good pace. It's that the women's tag team division never seems to have anything to it. And when you have a team like this that could stay a team for a while, you don't necessarily have to break them up. That's where it kind of confuses me, because you could use her to build that division. Anyway, I digress. I'd like to see her go to Stardom, much like I said with Giovanni Vinci. I think I'd like to see her have a short run somewhere where she could put on some really good matches and really get her name out there again. These aren't the flashiest of free agents. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to knock these wrestlers at all. Every one of these wrestlers is way more talented than I could ever think to be. But in a world where she's fighting bloated rosters in other companies, I'd like to see her re-engage, remake her name, build herself up, and either go back to WWE, go to TNA eventually, which she could go to TNA right now, and I think that'd be a great fit too, or even AEW. But I would think a run in Stardom, much like I said with Vinci, to kind of reprove themselves, show the world that they're more than they've been given, would do wonders for her. Now, last but not least, I'm very shocked by this one. And it's not for the fact that I think WWE's done great things with them. It's the fact that WWE hasn't done great things with them. And that's the Good Brothers. Machine Gun Carl Anderson, Doc Gallows, Luke Gallows, whatever you want to call them. Here's two guys that have wrestled everywhere, that have been champions everywhere, that are entertaining, that helped build some of the biggest things of the last decade. They're building blocks for the Bullet Club, which is still ongoing. Like it, love it, whatever. They've had one of the most successful podcasts in wrestling, and that's just them being entertaining. But it never really translated much into WWE. Other than the beat up John Cena stuff and maybe the surprise comeback, they never really got that. I guess you could say they were never really the focus of the tag team division, which is baffling because they are a really good tag team. And I know they have their detractors. I know there's people that are tired of their gimmick or whatever. I think a lot of that is that they're being written like they're still in the 2014 Bullet Club and everything's been a rehash of that again and again, when they're not in the Bullet Club anymore. They haven't been given a chance to evolve out of that. Like Finn Balor. Finn Balor has been given a chance to evolve out of being the Bullet Club guy. AJ Styles, he's been given a chance to evolve out of that. I think whatever company these guys go to, they just tie them right back into that. Whether it is by sticking them with AJ or sticking them with Finn, calling them the OC, always alluding to that time, it kind of sticks them in that time. And these are really good tag teams. Now, where I think they're going to end up, I'm pretty sure they're going to go back to New Japan Pro Wrestling. And if I were going to take bets on it, I would bet that they have some kind of split contract with New Japan and AEW. Yesterday when I talked about the Authors of Pain, I talked about them being too big for the AEW roster, and that could be the case with Gallows here, but I think these guys work better, and I'm not knocking Authors of Pain here, don't get me wrong. I think these guys work better with smaller tag teams. They have more of a history working with small tag teams, and I think they can be slotted in, splitting their time between the two companies, maybe going in now. There's been a lot of upheaval in the Bullet Club recently. There's questions whether Evil is part of it anymore. Evil part of the House of Torture arm of it, which that's a whole nother thing. Is House of Torture part of Bullet Club? There's some rumblings that David Finlay might be gone. Maybe they go to New Japan and destroy the thing that they created, or at least Carl created, and Gallows was there very early, and they destroy the Bullet Club for whatever new faction it is. Whether it's helping one of the new young talents get over, maybe like a Ren Narita, or maybe they give Shota Umino that muscle, that toughness that he needs to get over that hump that he's seeming to be missing, just that one little thing to put him over the top. Or maybe Yota Tsuji breaks off from LIJ, which I don't think he should, because I think Yota Tsuji should be the guy that takes over LIJ once Naito falls back into even a more part-time schedule, because I hate to say it, folks, but Naito's end of his career is getting really close, and I'm very sad about that because I've loved watching him. But anyway, I think they'd be a great fit going back there. I mean, it's obvious it's where they've had their most success. Working with AEW, working there, I think it'd be a great fit. Plus, we're starting to see in AEW and I know this contradicts what I said about the Authors of Pain a bit, there's a little bit more coming in with, plus, with them being in AEW, with some of the teams that AEW's broken up recently, the Acclaim being broken up, the Lucha Brothers no longer being there, that gives them another name tag team to throw into that tag division. I think they'd have great matches with Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, who are the champions right now. I think they'd have great matches with the Hounds of Hell, Buddy Murphy and Brody King, which I'm hoping they get a tag team title run very soon. I'd actually love to see both of those guys go into single runs because I think they both have potential to be much more than they've been given. But like I said, I think they could help that depleted tag division. Obviously, New Japan, I think they're always going to be welcome there, especially since Rocky Romero is one of their best friends and he's got hands in both offices. So I think the Good Brothers, they're set. I will say, if I'm the Good Brothers, I don't think I ever answer the call from WWE again because they seem to keep getting this treatment. They get pulled in and then they get released. They get brought back, they flounder for a couple of years, then they get released. But anyway, I digress. With all that being said, I know this is my second of these videos in 2 days. I did want to give a little bit of positive spin. Let me know what you guys think down here. Where do you think these people are going to end up? Would you like to see Duke Hudson maybe show up in AEW? Would you like to see Vinci show up in Game Changer Wrestling and challenge Matt Cardona there? Would you like to see Isla Dawn show up in Game Changer Wrestling and challenge Matt Cardona there? Would you like to see the Good Brothers maybe in CMLL or AAA even? Or maybe they go to a rival Japanese company like Noah or All Japan? Oh, it's an interesting time. I hate seeing people lose their jobs, and as you guys all know, if you lose, it's never great to lose your job. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, I know I ramble on these a bit, but I'm going to tell you a bit why I like giving these positive spins. Last year, in the summer, I was fired from my job. A job that I had for over 20 years. Now, the original company I started with sold us. They didn't sell out, they're still a company, but they sold the building I was working at and all the employees to another company after about 15 years of working there. So for 5 years, it was with a new company. And in that time, that new company, I don't want to break any legal things or get sued here, but let's just say I worked for a company that worked for other companies, and you would get shifted around between them. Well, it came to a point where it was painfully obvious that me and some of my contemporaries that had been there for a while were slowly being pulled away, that they were getting rid of us basically because they could hire people for $2 less an hour than what they were paying us. I know, I'm going off on a rant here. There's going to be a point, I promise. I had a very tough time. I had a very rough few months, and I maxed out all of my credit cards, all of that. The reason I mention this is because after that, I found another job that I just started. I've only been there less than 4 months now. And while there are a couple things, the schedule I have is it's wonky. That's why you don't see as many videos as much anymore. But part of that is, with this new position, not only am I starting at a higher rate, it's almost $2 an hour more. So coming from a job where, as the veteran, I was looked at as making too much money, to going to another job where my experience is valued and they hired me for even more than I was making there, it makes you feel good. It makes you, after you go through that and you find that new thing and you, in my opinion, you could better your position, it always feels good. So that's what I'm wanting anybody to take out of this, whether you're going through that yourself, if you've lost a job recently, just know that there's chances you're going to be better off because of it. Just keep grinding, keep doing the work, much like these guys and women. If they keep grinding and doing the work, they're going to end up in a better position. But I digress. With all that being said, and thank you if you stayed here all the way through that, I appreciate you. With all that being said, let's smash a like button, share the video, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you see where it says join, that's how you become a member. Becoming a member helps me out. There's also going to be a thing, if you go to my YouTube page, there's a thing called shop. You click on some of those links. I make commissions if you purchase any of those products. Also, you'll probably see here on the video, there's going to be a link on the video of some products that I think tie to this. If you click on that, again, I get a commission. It definitely helps me out. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and you've been watching Heel Heat.